Hey folks, Randy here, Doing Cut and Trim. So I got a question on a video, and I wanted to do a video response for it. And there was a person asking for tips on how to work with Amazon, selling lawn mowing services through Amazon Home Services. So it's a little background. I was actually the first lawn care provider in Anne Arundel County to provide lawn services through Amazon Home Services. I actually was contacted by Amazon about signing up, and so my experience with it is, I don't know if my experience signing up will be the same as it is for people now, because it was different. So like for me, they asked me to sign up. I said sure. They sent me a link, and I had to do a business background check. I don't know what that entailed. I really don't know. I mean, maybe all it was a Google search. I have no clue. But I passed the business background check. And then at that point, I was able to set up my profile. And setting up your profile is extremely important if you're going to sell things on Amazon. So the way it worked was, you need to tell them what area you're willing to service. And so I had to be very specific with that. It wasn't good enough to just draw a radius. I needed to actually specify the zip codes I was willing to work in. And then you can specify what services you're willing to offer. And you've got to be really careful here, because I really wasted a lot of time initially when I did that. Because, I was saying like, how much would you charge for a yard of mulch, 2 yards of mulch, yada, yada. How much would you charge for a medium-sized property or a small property? And they would define it. Like, small would be 0 to 5,000 square feet. Medium would be like, 5,000 to, 20,000. And then large would be 20,000 to 40,000, etc. And so you have to be careful when you're pricing that, because first off, you need to price for the high end of the range. So like 5,000 to 10,000, for me, most of that range would be $35 per cut. But once you get to about 10,000, that's when I hit 40. And so I had to, basically set it at 40, which, meant that if somebody with a townhouse wanted me to do, wanted me to cut their grass, they're going to pay 40 when they really should have only paid 35. But actually not even 40. I'm going to get to this in a second. So like, for the folks that were like 5 to 20,000 square feet, I mean, they really kind of got it, because, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Like 0 to 5,000 would be like $35, but then the 5 to 20,000 square foot. Sorry, I got confused earlier. 5 to 20,000 square foot. I mean, those folks, they were going to have to pay, they were looking at like $50. Properties that should have been 35 per cut, we're looking at $50. Although they actually were going to look at more, and I'll explain why in a second. So you had to make sure you priced it correctly. And one of the nice things that you could do on there was you could actually list your price. You could see what other companies that were in your service area were pricing, so you could determine what price you wanted to set. So like, there was some overlap initially when I did the radius thing. I had overlap with other companies, and so like, these guys are charging stupid prices. It was like $100 for a 5,000 square foot yard, so you were able to kind of address, you could undercut people if you wanted to. Amazon sets it up like that, because the customer, when they're selecting somebody on Amazon services, they can pick which company. So you might be a lower priced company, but if my reviews are better, like they could pick me. So so you set that up, and for me, selling services on Amazon, it was great for lawn mowing, but only lawn mowing. Any kind of landscape work, there was just a lot of tire kicking. Actually, it was like 100% tire kicking. I think I got one landscape job off of Amazon Home Services, but that was like amongst like 50 tire kickers. It just was not worth it. Excuse me. And so then So I eventually just stopped offering any kind of landscaping work at all on Amazon. It was just mowing only because that was the easiest thing to offer. And so, sorry, you can't drive backwards and talk at the same time. I'm just not skilled enough. So then after I got all that set up, and so like, you know, I was charging $35 for the 5,000 square foot and under. So I got a job, and at first Amazon was only taking 10%, and that was fine. So a $35 lawn, I was actually getting $31.50, and but then they bumped it up to 20%. So Amazon was whatever you charged, Amazon was taking 20% of that. So like if I had a $35 yard, that meant I was only actually getting 28 bucks. So that wasn't acceptable to me. I needed to make sure I was still getting the amount that I wanted to get. So that meant that those $35 yards, they needed to be bumped up to 40, I think. No, even with 40, that wasn't enough, because 20% of 40 would bring me down to $32. So yeah, so it made it so that a lawn that would normally be 35, I was having to charge 45 in order to get what I wanted out of it. And so, you know, I still got customers off of it. You know, I was still, and so I made reasonable money. But the thing you got to watch out for with Amazon, and this is actually why I stopped working with Amazon, is their cancellation fees on the service provider end are outrageous. I got into a situation where I realized I wasn't going to be able to service a property on the specific day that it was requested. And so, you know, if that happens, you can contact the customer and reschedule. Well, the customer had no phone number listed, and when I tried to contact them through Amazon's email system, I got a notification saying this customer had elected not to receive communications through Amazon. So I had no way of getting a hold of this customer. So I just canceled it because there was nothing I could do. Well, I got hit with a $50 cancellation fee. And when I realized that Amazon was going to be giving $50 cancellation fees, I said, you know what? This isn't worth it. I don't make enough money off of working with Amazon. And like, if I'm going to go out and mow somebody's $45 yard, but if I cancel that I get charged $50, that's a $95 swing. Like, you know, I go from making 45 to losing 45, but also having to pay 50. That doesn't make sense at all. So I stopped working with Amazon at that point. It was very useful to me in the beginning as far as like getting work. You know, it was nice to have that extra marketing thing available to me, but just financially it wasn't worth it to me to sell services on Amazon anymore, so I stopped. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. You know, I mean, I still made, I have no idea how much I made. We'll say thousands, because it was certainly that, but I have no idea how much I actually made on Amazon. But it's definitely worth it. And Amazon's definitely a better option than using something like Lawn Love, who keeps contacting me. You know, it's a better option than like Lawn Love. I haven't worked with TaskEasy, or a couple of these other ones I haven't really messed with, but you know, I think if you're going to go that route of selling services on some of these websites, Amazon Home Services is definitely the way to go. Because they give you the most control, and I think that's really important. You know, you don't want to be in a deal with somebody like Lawn Love where they're like, "Hey, we guarantee you'll make $500 with us," and then it's like, you know, assuming you mow, I don't know, like 40 lawns or something. I don't know, something silly. So it's just something to keep in mind. That was my experience with Amazon Home Services. I definitely, if you're interested in using it, I definitely say go for it. Just, you know, keep in mind they're going to take 20% of what you charge. It might even be more now. I don't know. You know, initially they were only taking 10%. And actually, I think because they were towards the end there before I left, they had started offering lawn maintenance plans where customers could sign up for every 2-week service and stuff like that. And I think for subscription plans, that's what they called them. For subscription plans, I think Amazon was only taking 10%. But then when they switched over, if it was just a one-time service, they were taking 20%. So I just wanted to tell you guys that's basically been my experience with Amazon. I think if you want to use it, go for it. It's a good service. It's not for me anymore with the way my business is structured. So this is Randy with Dolan Cut and Trim. Have a good one.